Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Tottenham Hotspur are back in the Champions League, and so are their rising stars in the Uefa Youth League. On Tuesday, all eyes were on 16-year-old sensation Luca Williams-Barnett, who stole the show with his creativity. Tottenham Hotspur are back in the Champions League, and that meant a return for their youngsters to the European stage with the UEFA Youth League. The competition mirrors the first team tournament in the group stage, meaning Spurs' potential stars of the future face the same opponents as their senior counterparts and travel to each of the 4 away games in the league phase. It's a competition where stars can be made or found. In previous years at Tottenham, Troy Parrott began to make his name across Europe with goals in the tournament against Barcelona, Inter Milan, PSV Eindhoven, Olympiacos twice, and Red Star. The young Irishman's appearances in the competition brought him not only to the attention of the Spurs first staff, but also scouts across the continent. Clubs like Dortmund circled, looking to take him out of England. Nowadays, Parrott is scoring goals for fun at a senior level at AZ Alkmaar in the Eredivisie, or was before a medial ligament knee injury last month ended a spell of 10 goals in 7 matches. Now the current crop of Spurs starlets are looking to make their name on the European stage. All eyes on Tuesday afternoon were on Luca Williams-Barnett, a 16-year-old number 10 creating plenty of buzz for his performances for the club's U18s last season, featuring a string of spectacular goals, including a number of efforts from the halfway line. The youngster, who turns 17 next month, netted a hat-trick in the U17 Premier League Cup final triumph last season, and after being promoted to the U21s, this term has 2 goals and 2 assists in 4 matches so far. He also starred for England U18s during his recent first involvement with them, and there are high hopes within the club for a player who was named on the bench in the Premier League in December last year by Ange Postecoglou, and 3 times in the Europa League despite his age. He benefits from having a physical frame that is a couple of years older than others of his age. On Tuesday afternoon at Hotspur Way, Williams-Barnett was the pick of the bunch among a Spurs team managed by U21s boss Wayne Burnett that contained plenty of players to keep an eye on. There was the centre-back pairing of Junai Byfield, who was on the bench for the recent UEFA Super Cup, despite also only being 16, and 17-year-old Malachi Hardy, who has also been involved with the first setup and on the bench in various games. Captain Callum Oluseyi has made his Spurs senior debut, and at 18 looks a player ready to take a loan move in the Football League, while Tynan Thompson and Reece Elliott-Paris are young attackers to watch. Villarreal were the first visitors to Hotspur Way in the competition, and swiftly showed that their technical ability and counter-attacking instincts were going to be something Spurs would have to get to grips with. It would be Williams-Barnett who first grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. He picked up the ball in his number 10 role and threaded a perfect little through ball to Thompson, and the left winger slotted home comfortably over the onrushing keeper. Williams-Barnett had further opportunities. Soon after that goal, he picked up a loose ball from a poor goal kick and rounded the keeper, only to somehow screw his shot wide of the covering defender. He then volleyed over unmarked from a good position after the half-hour mark. Villarreal punished that profligacy as they grabbed a goal back with a bit of magic of their own, as Sergio Martin curled a fine finish from distance over goalkeeper Sam Archer. It took a rocket of a first-time strike into the top corner from Reece Elliott-Paris on the turn to put Spurs back into the lead after good work from Leo Black to press and win the ball in the Villarreal box. The seesaw nature of the game continued though, as Iker Mateos fired home a low equaliser early in the second half for the Spanish side. It came after a little reminder that Williams-Barnett is only 16, as he tried a complacent flick on the edge of his own box, which gave the ball to the visitors out of nothing in a dangerous position. It's all part of a young player's development. For this teenager in particular, his natural gifts are clear. There are very early shades of the instinctive flair of Spurs mavericks of the past like Hoddle, Ginola and Berbatov. Williams-Barnett knows he can beat an opponent at will and can control the ball as if it's part of him, but the key will be knowing when to unleash his creativity and when to play it safe and also how to fit into a team structure and tactic. It took James Rousel's header from close range to shove the home side back into the lead from Harry Burns' free kick, only for the visitors to peg them back again as Iker Baranano used his head after some messy Spurs defending from a corner. It was then that Williams-Barnett stepped up as the best players do. Minutes after seeing a powerful low shot tipped around the post by the goalkeeper, he would take a ball into his stride, surge down the right and fire across the 6-yard box, where Villarreal defender Pedro Luque Guimeno could only get a foot in ahead of Elliot Paris to send the ball into his own net. Williams-Barnett then made it 5-3 with a clever finish. Substitute Miracle Adewale had replaced early goalscorer Thompson, who had struggled with a back problem since the first half, and the newcomer struck a powerful shot that was saved and came back to him. He looked up and sent the ball across to Williams-Barnett, who took a clever touch as the defender slid past him and then fired the ball low into the bottom right corner. The 16-year-old limped off in the game's final stages after a little off-the-ball clash as a Villarreal defender left his mark on him. He was replaced by Oliver Boast, signed from Leeds this summer and already among the goals for the U18s, which shows the quality now coming through or brought into the academy. Williams-Barnett had showed his talent and his age at times, but this was his first performance on the European stage, and plenty will have taken notice, along with the displays of some of his teammates. Some of the Thomas Frank's first-team coaches were sat in the stands, including Matt Wells, Andreas Georgsson and Justin Cochran, as well as Stuart Lewis watching many of his former U18. Lewis was working with various academy players in training on Monday, who are expected to fill out the big subs bench in the Champions League on Tuesday night. Williams-Barnett, who comes from a big Spurs supporting family, will likely get that chance this season, at some point. After his experiences in the previous campaign, Spurs will need to make sure they show him that there's a pathway for him to succeed at the club, rather than have to head out as many others have. He now has U21s, international and European experience, and the senior game is what awaits. For Tottenham have a real talent in the youngster if fortune smiles on him with injuries, and he continues to show the required work ethic to match his ability. On Tuesday night, Williams-Barnett will watch on as the senior stars step out as that Champions League anthem booms out. If he continues on his current path, then he will join them sooner rather than later. Tottenham's dream start under Thomas Frank continues with a Champions League win over Villarreal. James Maddison was spotted poking fun at Manchester United while supporting his teammates, and there's fresh news on Savinho as he edges closer to his return. Let's break it all down. Tottenham continued their impressive start to life under Thomas Frank on Tuesday night, winning 1-0 over Villarreal in the Champions League. Luis Jr.'s own goal in the 4th minute was the only difference between the two teams in a game that offered little attacking threat. Frank has now won 4 of his opening 5 games in charge of Spurs, after replacing Ange Postecoglou. The good start to the season comes despite several key players suffering injuries. James Maddison is expected to miss out until 2026 after suffering an anterior cruciate ligament injury during pre-season. Alongside Dejan Kulusevski and Radu Dragusin, Maddison often attends Spurs home games to support his teammates, and Tuesday night was no different. However, before the game against Villarreal, he was involved in EA Sports' first gameplay live stream event in London. Alongside members of the gaming community, such as Angry Ginge, Bezinga, and Nico Omilana, Maddison helped promote the upcoming version of the game and played alongside Adebayo Akinfenwa during the stream. He also participated in EA Sports' stream of further gameplay before interacting with a number of streamers at the event who had been invited to play the game early. Upon leaving the event to make his way to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to watch the Spurs in action, the 28-year-old took the opportunity to poke fun at Manchester United. Spurs beat United in the Europa League final in May to seal a spot in this season's Champions League. Despite finishing 17th in the Premier League, the North Londoners are now competing with Europe's best and were able to spend big in the transfer window to bring in the likes of Xavi Simons. When saying goodbye to Angry Ginge, who supports United, Maddison said, "I've got to get to the game. I've got to get to the Champions League game." Ginge, real name Morgan Burt Whistle, replied, "Oh, Champions League." Maddison then took aim Tottenham's delight at United's expense, saying, the competition we qualified for by beating you, before walking away in laughter. Savinho could be in contention for his first appearance since being linked with a transfer to Tottenham Hotspur. The Brazilian winger spent the final part of the summer window rumoured to be the subject of transfer talks between Spurs and Manchester City. Last season, which was his first working under Pep Guardiola, he scored 3 goals and provided 13 assists. However, an unspecified injury has kept Savinho from featuring this season, while ultimately he did not move anywhere before the September 1st deadline. But that first fact may be about to change, as the Spurs target is reportedly in contention for his first outing of the 2025/26 season in Sunday afternoon's Manchester derby against local rivals Manchester United. City actually took their final training session ahead of the grudge on the pitch of their Etihad Stadium. Savinho was involved as he posted pictures to his Instagram story to confirm on Saturday night. A first picture, as shown above, had the winger running with the ball. He captioned the image with a sky blue heart emoji paired with the eyes emoji. Another displayed himself juggling the ball with his left foot, with the caption reading S26, a reference to his name and shirt number, followed by a lightning bolt emoji. At the same time these two pictures were posted by Savinho, Spurs were wrapping up their emphatic win over London rivals West Ham at the London Stadium. A goalless first half was followed by a drastically livelier second period, kick-started by Pepe Sarr's 47th minute opener. Not long afterwards, Tomáš Souček was sent off for the hosts, and Thomas Frank's men immediately made good of their numerical advantage, as Lucas Bergvall headed in a second. The second goal scorer, lastly turned provider as Mickey van de Ven, found the net again this season to conclude a positive 3-0 victory. Savinho's mind may have been fixated on other tasks, instead of what life may have been like in this Spurs side. However, his transfer is a question that will need a definitive answer the next time the opportunity rolls around.